BookTube, it's Louise, the big head bookworm. Lovely to see you. Hope you're all well. Are you having a nice day? It's Saturday the 1st of October and so I am recording my wrap up for September. The first half of September I did a wrap up for. I finished one book and read 5 others, which is kind of good, I suppose. I'm not particularly worried about how many books I read. The second half has been very different because life got involved. As life is wont to do. My mum became ill. It's one of those things where just one little infection has cascaded and knocked her system for 6. She became very, very poorly. And it has culminated in her being rushed into hospital on last Tuesday. So she's been in hospital 5 days. So previously I was with my sister and my brothers. We were all visiting and taking care of her and spending lots and lots of hours looking after her, and now we're spending time visiting the hospital, and it's been wonderful in the fact that all my family's been there and we've all been together and we've all been supporting each other and phone calls between us all, and so that's been really good. But it's been awful to see how poorly she's been and how awful she's felt and feeling so helpless, so that's been really difficult. And what it did was just basically take up the bandwidth of my concentration. All my capacity went, and I think this is what happens when you're such a keen reader and it's part of your identity. You feel that you should be able to read no matter what, but there are times when you just get knocked for 6, and these are the kind of times where even you have the moment that you can sit down and read, you don't have the concentration, you don't have the capacity to sit and read. Because your mind is so active, thinking, planning, worrying. I think worrying takes so much energy up. And so if anybody else is going through anything similar, then my heart goes out to you as to what we've been going through. And it is life, it is what happens. And there are good things that come out of it, like I said about my family and friends, but it has made it very different. So I have read 3 books. And I have got halfway through 3 other books that I'm probably not going to pick up again. The other 2 I'm just going to have to, at the moment, say I'm really enjoying you, or I am reading you anyway, but I'm probably not going to come back to you in the time being. You're not what I need at this moment. And let's be honest, sometimes you just have to say, I've got to look out for myself here and say, what do I need, rather than what I think I should be reading. So I've got a little chamomile here just brewing, so you might want to get a drink and we can just chat about this and see how you're feeling too. The first book I actually read this month was before my mum became very poorly, and that was Casino Royale by Ian Fleming. So this was the surprise book that the husband gave me for reaching my 1,000 subscriber mark. Woohoo! It was just glorious, absolutely fabulous. I find the books of James Bond, I'm a true fan of the films, but the books are slowly but surely becoming even more important, even more fantastic, because you understand the depth of the character. This is the book where we are introduced into James Bond, and the first, I would say 3/4 of the book is developing on about a game of Baccarat taking place at this casino in the south of France. And it takes place in just such a short amount of time, and it's so cool, it's so collected, it's so wonderfully detailed, and it's amazing how with so few words, because it's such a slim book, there's so much tension and it packs an enormous punch. This book must have been amazing when it came out in 1953. It felt like a world apart when I was reading it now, the glamour and the sophistication. What it must have been like in post-war Britain when they were still dealing with rationing. I can't even imagine how powerful, how it must have felt like reading about another existence. It's glorious, absolutely glorious. James Bond is so cool in this book. He is ice in this book, and it is phenomenal. So my second half of my month started off really well with Casino Royale. I highly recommend this book. It's fantastic. Please pick it up. The next book I read was Michelle Stiles' Return of the Viking Warrior. Yeah, he came back. They got they kind of, there was conflict, and I won't give the end away. They get together. It's a Mills and Boon historical. It's probably not for me. It was light-hearted fluff, and I just let it roll over me, and that was it. It touched nothing. I learned nothing. And then I've had to kind of give this one up. The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. The film's just come out. I hope to have read it before the film came out. I stopped reading it and I lost all my momentum. I'm wondering whether this type of book, I'm sure everybody now knows what the thing about this book is, having seen all the hype of the film. I don't think this subgenre is for me, because I was reading it with this expression. Now, I can take horror, I can take spooks, I can take gruesomeness, but there's something about this. And I don't want to be reading books like that. I'm going to get wrinkles on my wrinkles, quite frankly, doing that. So I'm going to have to give this one up and say this isn't for me. Whether it's just not for me at this time, or whether it's just not for me. And also, in the film, she's white, isn't she? The main character, well, not her, not Melanie, but the woman, she's white, isn't she? Because in the book, I think she's definitely black. The way she's described, she's a strong black woman. And I think that's really a bit low to change her. But anyway, it needs to go back to the library, so I'm going to take it back to the library. Whether I'll come back to it again, yeah, probably not. I don't think it's the book's fault. I think it was tautly written. I think it's the type of book it is, and where I am at the moment in my life, I just don't think it's right for me. Sometimes you've got to give things up as it's not working. Then I was reading John le Carre's A Perfect Spy. It is taut, it is clever, it's spies doing spy things. I mean, I've just read through all the it's kind of multi-strands, well, 2 strands particularly, and one of the strands is his childhood, and I've kind of read through that. Glad to get through that bit because I'm not that interested in it, but it was still so well written. It's so well written, and again, there's a coolness to it that I quite like, and a different side of life than what I've led. I mean, I'm not a spy. I'm not giving anything away here. I'm not a spy. Or am I? No, I'm not a spy. Maybe. So I'm 157 pages in. It requires too much concentration. For me, at this moment, my capacity, I do not have spare capacity for this book, and I will not do it justice if I carry on reading it at the moment. It's a superb book. I can feel that. I just don't have the space for this book at the moment. I just don't have the concentration or the power or I just am not giving it its best. And I could sit and trog through it, but it would be a slog, and it would put me off it, and I don't want to have that feeling. So I'm going to have to put you aside, A Perfect Spy, and come back to you when I have time. I then was sat outside the bathroom because Benedict was having a bath, and I was waiting for him to get out, and I looked at the bookcase and I saw Naked in Death, the first of the In Death range by J.D. Robb, which is Nora Roberts. And I picked it up and I started reading it as I want to. I do that. I pick books up and I start reading them, or I flick through to page 20 and start at a scene and go, oh, what's that? And I just read it. Over the next 24 hours, it went down very nicely. So that's Naked in Death by J.D. Robb. So futuristic crime set in New York. Just what the doctor ordered. The last book, and I'm going to pour myself a little bit of chamomile here. I won't show you it because it's the colour of urine, quite frankly, chamomile, when it's done right. So, but there it is, my little sip. Lovely. Is this Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I am 168 pages in. And again, I'm going to have to stop. I am going to have to stop and say, Sarah, I'm just not in the right space for this. I was so looking forward to it. So very much looking forward to it. It is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series, which is up there. And I'm not enjoying it. And I don't know whether I'm not enjoying it because it's not the book for me at this time, or I don't know whether I'm not enjoying it because I wonder whether we've hit the limit of Sarah's expertise. I'm not saying that because I've only read 160 something pages of it, but I wonder whether we've gone past what she's very good at, because it's gotten unwieldy. I wonder whether the story's got out of her control. I don't feel that she's in full control of this anymore. There are too many narrative strands, and they're splitting up a lot, and they're just repetitive. So the strands don't have enough difference in them. You go, who's that? Oh, it's 169 pages, and I feel it's kind of working towards an epic battle at some point in this series. It keeps telling me there's an epic battle coming, so I presume that's where we're going to go. And yet, no tension whatsoever. There's been a slow-burning romance for the last book and this. No tension whatsoever. I'm like, yeah, either they do or they don't. It's the characters. There are characters happening, pairings happening that you just think, oh, that would never happen, and it seems to be that that's just expediency rather than actually being character driven or plot driven. And I haven't watched any of the reviews of it. I might actually watch some of them, because just to see whether it's just where I am at the moment or whether the book has faults. I think the book has faults. So that was a bit of a shame, because I was really looking forward to this, and I really thought that this was going to be the book that I could sink into when I had moments where I was worried, or when you just actually want escapism because life has just gotten a little bit too big for you at that time. So I was wondering whether this was going to be the book for me, but I don't think it is. The other thing is, watching the time just carefully, it's got mature content in here, and I was seeing something on Twitter where they were saying about the sex scenes in here. They were like, ugh, gross, ugh, they're horrible. And I was like, really? Now I'm intrigued. So I flicked ahead and read some of the sex scenes. The mildest sex scene I have read. I mean, they're two demi-fae, or the fae, having sex, and so there's lots of magic involved. So her orgasm turns sand to glass. Wow, that's a good one, isn't it? Makes your head curl, even the idea of it. And then his orgasm fells 6 trees. Well, I'm not saying it's well written, the sex scene, let's be honest. I mean, it is very silly. It is very silly. But there was all this kind of like, oh, that's gross. And I was thinking, either I read way more explicit stuff than you do, which could be that. But there was nothing gross about it. And I was thinking, isn't it intriguing that YA as a genre, and this is just my experience of reading YA, seems to be so sexless. I mean, it has romance, and it will have, but it's not sex. It's not there is nothing explicit about it whatsoever, and yet its target audience are kind of known, that kind of 15 up. I tend to be quite interested in sex at that time. I mean, when you think about, the phrase horny teenagers, there's a reason why it's that. And thinking back to when I was that age, everybody I knew were all fascinated in it. I mean, we were reading Jilly Cooper and underlining passages and handing it to the next person, saying, what do you think? Is that what it's going to be like? Am I going to have to do that? Is that what it is? No. I find it fascinating that, I was reading Jilly Cooper and Jackie Collins. There was another one, Pat something, I can't remember. She did a book called Palm Beach, and I remember that being totally raunchy. Shirley Conran, that was bigger. That was so scandalous. But they were really explicit. The horror books that I used to read at that age had really explicit sex scenes. I didn't buy them from that, but it was part of it. It was part of that kind of scandalous, reading adult books thing. And yet I find that YA, which supposedly is for that age, is so sexless. Anyway, I thought I'd mention it because I've been musing on it, because this book has been, like, ooh, it's sexy. And it's like, well, really? You need to read a Jilly Cooper, my love. Get yourself riders, I say. So, I'm giving this one a break. I'm not DNFing it. I am just going to say it's not for me at this time, and a perfect spy. So these two I'm going to put aside. I'd love to be really enjoying them and be in the headspace for them, but I'm not. Let's be honest. So they're going to have to find a little place in my shelves. Let's put them there. So they're there, and I can see them, and I know that they're there for me, but they're just not there for me at the moment. And so I don't know what I'm going to be reading at the moment. It's going to be trial and error, I think. I think crime. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So have you had something like this happen to you? Have you just found yourself in a spot where you just thought, oh, I've seen so many videos this month with people saying that they're in a reading slump or they've read so few compared to previous months. And mine definitely has a reason of my mum's poorly. I've had to do so much that, and it's how much my emotions and my soul have been invested in getting her better, poor love. And you know, in fact, we'll be going to go and see her in the hospital in the next, what time is it? In the next half an hour or so. So anyway, it's been a mixed month. What can I say? Sometimes that happens. Life happens, hey? I hope it's been better for you, and I hope you're very well. It's been lovely, BookTube. Thank you for letting me wobble on. And I hope you've got a nice drink. I shall sip my chamomile, and then I shall go and see my mummy in the hospital. The husband's coming with me so that we can both stare at her and say, are you feeling any better? And there we go. Let's cross fingers that October is a more relaxed and happy month. Much love. Bye-bye.